Hey everybody, Pastor Nick here and with the wife, Reverend Smith. We're so glad you joined us for another late couples night. We're so excited about what God is doing this evening. Please do us a favor and share. This is our ministry for all engaged as well as married couples. Or just anybody who wants to watch. We're just so glad you joined us this evening on whatever platform you're on. Please do us a favor and share this. Get somebody on for this discussion. Shouldn't be too long, but we're believing God that this evening we'll have something that could help you along your journey, your relationship journey. We're excited because we're looking forward to in-person meetings again starting up next year. We'll get more information about that soon. We will stream those online as well as have in-person sessions with the couples in the church. As you're sharing, don't forget that tomorrow we do have Bible study 12 noon as well as at 7 p.m. And we're getting ready for our New Year's Eve period where we'll be fasting the Friday the 29th, that Saturday. Then that Sunday we have service in the morning. Then in the evening at 7:30, the fast will break at the end of the New Year's Eve service. And we're sowing our first fruits. We're believing God and trusting God going into the new year for great things to come as we leave 2023 with momentum, going to 2024, trusting God for what He has for our future. So tonight we're going to talk about how to manage the emotions in a relationship, and in the sense of tragedy hits families individually and collectively, and how we manage that. I remember when we first got married, if I'm correct, my side of the family took some hits. My great uncle got sick, so I was taking my grandma to the hospital in Philly a couple days a week, and a couple things were going on. And then I think there came a time where something hit her side of the family, grandfather, and then we transitioned out of that, take care of that. And there are these ebbs and flows. And I believe that whenever something happens in the situation like that, there has to be some empathy, some sympathy, some space for the person to do what they have to do while still maintaining the marriage. And there are people out there who, when something happens to their side of the family, it's like, drop everything. I got to do this. And, you know, everybody has to understand. But when it happens to their spouse, it's like, well, what about me? And there's no, you know, when it's their side of the family, it's drop everything. When it's the other side of the family, it's, why are you doing all that? You know, you don't need to do all those things. Can't somebody else take care of that? That to me is completely wrong in any relationship, because if it's somebody close, like your grandfather, you know, my uncle, my whatever, it directly affects me as a person.
Yeah.
And whenever somebody's going through a tragedy, a tragic circumstances, support is more important than, you know, at that moment, we can't go to the movies because you have to go to the hospital to go see X, Y, and Z. Like, come on, y'all, let's think through this. So, you know, you're a therapist, you counsel couples, pastor, I counsel couples. I'll say this and I'll just throw it to you and you have fun with it. I think, to me, times of hardship like that, or even if somebody in the relationship is depressed, family thing didn't happen, the person's battling with depression or anxiety or whatever, you know, how do we manage those bouts? I think it starts with empathy first. Sympathy is I feel bad for you. Empathy is I feel bad as you. Put myself in your shoes to see what it's like, but also understanding there's going to come a time in my life where something may hit me and I'm going to need your support too. And we want to reap something that we haven't sowed. I say all that to say that you go ahead and run. If we're a therapist, you're a therapist, we're getting counseling, what would you say in those circumstances?
Even outside of clinical stuff, but I remember when we were in premarital counseling, and I mean, I can admit I'm spoiled. You know, I came, I have a very close relationship with my parents, and in premarital counseling, Bishop had asked this very simple question but important. He said, "Has Tiffany moved from being taken care of to being able to take care of?" And that when he asked, I was like, oh, because it's not something you think to ask or consider, and how important it is when different situations come up in marriages. Can the person take care of you in those circumstances? And that is going across the board when you're grieving a loved one, when you're depressed or anxious, when you're feeling insecure, when things change. Can you care for your partner? And I think that was an important question for me to even think for myself, like, have I moved? Oh, and making sure that you can be there for the person the way that they need it. From a clinical standpoint too, I think it's important that we understand what may prevent us from doing that. For many people, they want to be taken care of, but they don't know how to take care of other people, and they don't have the tools to do that. And you have to be able to think introspectively about what you have to offer, not just what you want from the other person. And that is an important part of being there for someone when they're going through it, is that you're intentional, but you have to have the skill set to do that.
Yes. Well, you brought up caring for the person the way they need care.
Yeah.
We often care for people the way we want to be cared for. So talk about that, learning how to care for the person in the way that they need to be cared for.
It circles back to the things that we've been talking about before, is teach me how to care for you too. Right. So and then I show willingness. So it's important that we communicate what we need to be cared for. And then the other person shows the willingness to meet you where you are. Now, if you tell me this is what I need to be taken care of, and then I do it the way I want to do it, then it creates chaos and tension in the relationship. But if you communicate to me and you see me willing to try to meet you, then we can correct one another when things are not going well, or share when things have changed. You mentioned this one of our last sessions, when things change with the person, or recognize that they've changed and communicate. I needed this at this point in time, but right now I need, things have changed. And
I think marriage and relationships will show you how selfish you are. If you're aware of it. That now you're put in something where you have to live to serve somebody else, and your needs being met is just as important as you meeting the other person's needs. And sometimes it's like, say if you're having a horrible day, right? I mean, stuff's blowing up all over the place. And as soon as you come home, I'm just like throwing everything I need on your plate and expecting you to be X, Y, and Z. That's not fair to you. There's no consideration there of like, yo, my spouse has had a terrible day. Let me find a way to support them when they need to be supported. And if tonight is just solely about supporting this person, and that day my needs aren't being met, it's okay, right? Because now this only works when you're in a relationship where both people are because I know that tonight my needs won't get met, but tomorrow it'll be okay. And sometimes you have to communicate to that person, today I just don't have it the way you want it. Tomorrow I'm going to be fine, but today just drained everything out of me. I give you what I can, do what I can, but it won't be top shelf like you're used to. I'm talking any circumstance. But you're right, there comes that honesty, but also the other person's willingness to say, you know what? Supporting somebody during hardship is very attractive. And people don't get that. It's like, oh, what about, I need this. What about food? Go cook your own food or go get something. Like, come on. Like, it tests, I'll say it like this. those trying times test our maturity, and our response reveals how mature we really are. That was a nicer way of me saying that we act childish sometimes. When so,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry.
No, in a spirit of transparency, I remember maybe in the summertime, I had a really, really tough night and just kind of walked downstairs and not shortly after you came downstairs and sat on the couch with me and didn't really say much, but just waited for me to be ready to talk. And it was so important. And I kind of didn't want you to leave, but I didn't know how to talk. But you just being present and being and consoling in that moment, and it was really late, and you could have been like, "You all right? All right, I'm going back to sleep." Like, and like, "You all right? All right, good." Like, and but in the moment, you being aware that clearly something was not right and that you needed to be there was important, and that's care. You don't always have to do the most, right? And try to solve everybody's problem, but sometimes being aware of what your partner needs in that moment is care. And I was so grateful and appreciative of that. And we can flip flop, and when you need something, we are there for each other. I think it's important in marriages to show empathy and compassion for your partner, and not always try to fix or solve things. There's times when that's necessary, but there's also times where it's good to just be present and care.
Yeah.
Show care.
It's the simple, small thing.
Yeah.
It ain't that deep. It's just, this is where, and I know this is where first, two things. First off, scripture shows us that men are also nourishers and cherishers also.
Yeah.
If we only put the nourishing and the cherishing on the woman, the man could just be this stale, blah, nonchalant guy and just let everything pass. But a part of a woman's safety is in a man's ability to also nourish and cherish her too.
Yeah.
And show that care. And sometimes it's those, like you said, it's the small things.
Small things.
It's not huge. It's something as small as, you home for work early. Your spouse is coming in a little after you, and they worked all day. You can wash the dishes before they come in.
Put them in the dishwasher.
Put them in the dishwasher. Just small stuff, just like little things here or there without, as soon as the person walks in, I need this. Can you do this? This is what it's like, yo, slow down some. Like, prepare your home in a way that is comfortable as much as you can. If you got kids, they tear stuff up anyway. As much as you can when they come home, where it's like, your home should be a place of safety.
Yeah.
A refuge. There it is. When you go home to, or I know at least at home, I can feel safe from the troubles of the world. Not to say that all marriages are perfect, but it's just those little small things of showing care, of being there. And if it's something especially tragic, like the loss of a loved one, like if somebody's mother or father passes away, that's not an overnight.
Yeah.
First off, the person's never going to get over it. And, those things can change somebody. They worked hard and they got fired from their job being after for all those years. That's not like an overnight, all right, the next day I'm going to be, always okay. But can you care for a person over the course of a season? If a spouse gets sick,
Yeah.
Can you be there to support while the spouse is sick? And watch this, not reach for unrighteous ways to get your needs met because your spouse is sick. And those things are real conversations. And that's why they have those support groups for caretakers.
Yeah.
Because it's hard on the person that's sick, but it's also hard on the person that's caring for the individual that's sick too. But a lot of this comes with love, care, and living a selfless life. If you don't want to be selfless, don't get married, don't have kids. I'm not saying that we all need me time. We all need time to do stuff for ourselves. I'm okay with that. But I'm talking about overall. We usually get into marriage and kids for what we can get out of it, not what we can get.
How do you, and that's something that I'm always trying to figure out how to help people through, is when they're trying to do that, but they don't do it successfully, and they are kind of, instead, they're playing that tug of war with each other on, I'm tired of being the only one giving, and then both are kind of doing this thing where they're detaching from each other and waiting for the other person to show care.
Yeah.
And they keep that spiral going 5-10 years into the marriage.
Right.
It's been like that for the last 15 years of the marriage. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that, how do you come back from that?
I think part of that is a few things. That's a big trust issue.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't trust you'll care for me. And usually when there's a place where you come to the place where you don't feel like you don't feel like you can trust the person to care for you, there's good reason why. That's number one. I'm always, let's look at what started this.
Yeah.
This didn't come out of nowhere. What started this? The other thing is too, some people don't know how to be cared for. If I'm trying to care for you in the way you need to be cared for, don't make it hard for me to do it.
Yeah.
Because then I get tired of wanting to do it because you want me to do this. And then when I try to do it, you make it hard. Let somebody care for your behind. Right? And both men and women, our pride gets in the way.
Yeah. Ooh.
When somebody wants to care for it, I'm doing and it's like,
oh, now you're doing it. Now you're doing it.
And you keep pushing the person away. Yeah, it's like, I want you to care for me more. Then the person shows care. Oh, now you showing me care. Well, I'm doing what you asked me to do. You said something. We make it hard for the person to do it, right? So we lack trust, so we don't put care out there. We lack trust, so we don't know how to be cared for.
Yeah.
And then you're in a vicious cycle rather than figuring out what started this. And let's forgive. Let's do the work to start over again and say, you know what? This is what you need. This is what I need. Yeah. And let's work to fulfill those needs in each other. And also let's remove the behavior that's producing this lack of trust. And understand and be patient. It takes time for trust to be restored. But this whole thing on, I ain't doing it because you ain't doing nothing and I ain't doing it. Let's work together because then you're tit for tat and that's all you're going to stay in. Yeah. I'm not going to do nothing because you're not doing nothing. Somebody got to make the first move.
Yeah.
And the other person has to have enough sense to say, you know what? Let's talk through it. I'll take a brick down. You take a brick down. Let's work to take these walls down that we built up over time. And what was built up over time is not going to come down overnight. It takes time to take those bricks down. So the wall, but if I'm the only one taking the bricks down and you picking them up and putting them back on, it's not going to work.
No. Yeah. I always say that you have to have a high enough regard for your partner to make the behavioral changes that you're talking about. But if you hold them in contempt, and every time they try to work toward you, you remind them of what they're not, then you have a problem. And it's really hard to show compassion for somebody that you secretly despise, because of things that they've done, whether it's a broken trust or issue that they need to be forgiven for. But if they're working toward forgiveness and willingness to show you love and compassion and empathy, accept it. That's marriage. But if you're going to stay married, you got to. Otherwise, yes, it continues this, the person in your eyes, goes down. And who wants to be married to someone who secretly despises them and holds and doesn't trust them? They're both, like you said, both parties have to be willing to brick by brick rebuild and show care and change the behavior, because that's incredible. You saying that, like, that's incredibly important, is the attitude adjustment both probably need, but then also the behavioral changes that confirm we've made a decision to go back toward each other. Highly important as it relates to that.
And as we close, you said something. You just kind of said it, just flew right past it. I hope I'm saying it the right way. But you said, if I don't respect you, I won't change. In the sense of, I won't change if I don't value you enough. You value enough to change. And that just, it clicked. That was so good. I don't think we think about it like that. If I'm unwilling to make this change, I don't value this person enough to change. And that speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Volumes. And then the crazy thing is when one spouse shows the other one, this is how I'm going to be. I don't value enough to change. What does that spouse then do? When I notice this person's never going, because they don't value me enough to make this change. That's a hard reality. To recognize I'm not valued that much. And that could come from a variety of things. That can come from just a person not knowing how to be cared for. That can come from if I'm the perpetrator.
Yeah.
I said this in the class a couple minutes ago. The perpetrator can't dictate the healing process. What we want to do is, I want to do something wrong and you forgive me in 5 minutes. Oh, but if you hurt me, I need a whole month. I just don't, we get crazy. I need time. But if I'm hurting you, I said, I'm sorry. Get over it. But if I'm hurt, I can't take it. Just leave me alone. I need space. And we go through this whole hoopla. Like we
So immature.
like what's wrong with us? We do that stuff. When we're the one doing the wrong, we want all the mercy in the world. But when we're the one doing the wrong, when we've been wrong, we want all the mercy. When we're the one doing the wrong, it's forget it. Like, come on, y'all.
Yeah.
There's got to be some, but those are the small care things.
I'm like, why be married to petty? If you want to be married to petty, don't get married. But if you want to be married, you're going to have to work through those things that are challenging and sometimes uncomfortable. I've been saying this a lot in therapy lately with my clients is there are some things you're going to have to do that do not feel good to do. And it's not, if you're waiting to be comfortable with it, it's not going to work. But there are some things like trusting your spouse again after they made a mistake and they're showing you willingness. And yes, you might have some discomfort, but you have to work through that and not continually keep the person in bondage to you, because sometimes when we've been wronged, we think that because I get to dictate the process, that I get to hold you in bondage to me, and you just have to take it. And no. But if we're willing and we're showing, okay, let's move forward. This is still a collaboration, not a dictatorship.
It's control.
Yeah,
it's control. I own you now, and I'm going to get you to do whatever I want. Until then what happens is this. Then the person gets tired of being controlled. And eventually does something to break away. And see, I knew you did what I've been trying to do everything, but you kept holding your thumb on me. And eventually people get tired of it. They get sick of it. So you're right. There's a responsibility on the one who's done wrong. You can't dictate the healing process. But the person who's been wrong, if you have forgiven, you have to start to slowly open that door of trust. It's not going to happen overnight.
It takes time.
And be honest with the person. Look, I'm trying, but I'm having a hard time trusting right now. And as the person's proven, time and circumstance is showing you trust is there. You can start opening the door more rather than I'm going to own you for the rest of my life. I'm going to get you to buy me this, do this for me, because now I own it. It's control. I'm hurt and I control. Because that control feels safe. Problem again is people eventually don't like to be controlled.
Dang.
All right, y'all. We out of time. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hope you all have a great holiday. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night for Bible study at 7. If you can't come at night, we have a noonday Bible study also. We have service on Christmas Eve at 11 a.m. And we hope that you can join us. And if we don't see you, God bless you all. On behalf of Pastor Nick.
Merry Christmas.
Rev Smith.